Hi everyone. My name is Nicolette Lazarus, and I am the founder and Chief Connection Officer at Womanship. And I'm so glad that you're here for this conversation. And whether you're watching this live or on replay, thank you for being here. So I've had the joy of working with both of tonight's panelists or guests. They were both on the panel for the screening of the M Factor. And Suzanne and I are collaborating again in terms of hosting the Connected Health event that's happening in September. And Lotta will also take the stage then as well. So tonight is something very different. We wanted to create something very personal, very spacious in terms of the ability for you to ask questions, a chance for us also to slow down and speak honestly about our experiences, and especially Lotta's and Suzanne, because of their areas of expertise. So a lot of us have been carrying lots of questions around our hormones and, is it me or is it my hormones? And I think hopefully we'll get some of those questions answered for you today. So I'd like to say that I'm going to make sure the Q&A is open, so feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A. I'm doing that now. So basically, let's start off with something really light by way of some introductions. And I'm going to ask you both the same question, Suzanne and Lotta. And I am a huge fan of connections. And that's the kind of connections that you make when you're networking or at parties. So my first question to you, Suzanne, is can you remember how we first met?
Well, yes, I think it was through Penny, who contacted me for the Louise Newson event. And that's how we got connected.
I remember that very well, sitting
Yeah.
there saying how passionate we are about things. And to you as well, Lotta.
I met you during a pre-talk for the
M Factor.
The M Factor, I think.
It was fascinating these conversations that I'm having with wellness professionals. So what I'm going to ask you both again is based on my fan of being of connections. And I really believe that we come to where we are at this point in our lives because of the key events and relationships and influences and positives and negatives that have happened along the way. So I believe that we are a connection of things that have happened to us to bring us to where we are. So I'm going to ask you, Suzanne, what's made you the woman that you are today? What have been the key life things that have brought you to this point?
Well, it definitely was perimenopause that started really early for me I think at 37 or 38. Before that, I was a working mom of 3 children and it was really busy, but I could manage pretty well. And well, after the age of 38, I just got anxious, extremely anxious, and especially during the PMS, which at first was 3 days and then 1 week, and it grew to, well, I think 2 weeks. But back then, it was in 2012 or something, nobody talks about perimenopause, and I just thought it's too much for me, 3 children and working, and that I couldn't cope. And well, that ended up in divorce and not seeing my children anymore. So it has cost me a lot, perimenopause. So when I became menopausal and started HRT, and then I felt that same anxiety for the first days, and I realized it was the hormones all that time. And it was really my cue to, do everything that I do now, just to prevent other women from feeling this way.
It's surprising how many of us, through, I think, necessity and then finding out that there's not enough knowledge, start something and want to help other women. So, Lotta, I'm going to ask you the same question. I'm certain we're going to dig more into Suzanne's story. So, Lotta, what makes you the woman that you are today?
Well, I think it started around, of course, obviously, everything that ever happened. But apart from from that, I think like what I do now has its roots also around 37, 38. When I was 37, 38 years old, when I was struggling with being a GP, or I was studying to become a GP actually. And I couldn't structure my consultations, and I was struggling with timekeeping, and I was like, it was just really difficult. to do what I should be doing. And I didn't know anything about perimenopause, so I thought of the things that I do know something about. So I thought must be ADHD. And then I went down that path, and that did give me some relief, but didn't cover all. And then I found out about giftedness and how that can be added to the mix and what kind of things that can explain. And then I specialized in that, and it still didn't cover everything. And then I got pregnant, and then I was fine. And then after my pregnancy, I just went down straight to like the perimenopause full blown. And I found out about Suzanne's podcast through a friend, and I cried for 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
and then it explained everything that had been happening since like 38. Yeah. And then I thought, why don't I know about this as a GP? Why didn't nobody ever tell me this? So that's where the need for knowledge and the frustration about no knowledge being out there came to fuel what I do now.
And it's funny how many women have this experience of discovery. I remember that I'd been turned away from the doctor multiple times. And I remember thinking that actually I had some kind of awful tropical disease because my mum had been in intensive care for many weeks in the ICU with temperature spikes. So when I started getting hot sweats or night sweats and was sent away from my doctor, I actually thought I had what she'd had. And looking back, all it was night sweats, but the doctor wasn't able to help me understand what I was going through at the time. So what were your experience of symptoms that you were going through in addition to the sort of brain fog, both of you? And can you just go through some of the key symptoms that you experienced and what you see that other women go through?
Yeah. The key ones are the strange ones.
The strange ones?
Yeah. I had a cold nose. Like I had a really, 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 really cold nose. Couldn't sleep. I even looked up nose warmers on it.
Now that you say that, I can remember that. It was always...
I was like, why?
Yeah.
Why? And I would like make these kind of like blankets, like just like pockets so that I could still breathe, but my nose would be warm.
Oh, I love that.
I just thought I must have a really big nose, that it's always so cold. But now it isn't anymore. More amounts.
That problem is solved, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other lists of maybe the more unexpected symptoms that women are experiencing and aren't realizing that maybe are associated with perimenopause? Because I think everybody's heard of, the hot flashes, the night sweats, brain fog now is becoming more to the fore. What are the other things?
I think the hot flashes is not where most women are suffering from. I think when you experience really early symptoms, it's the anxiety, sleeplessness, because you are just too anxious, so you can't fall asleep. You can put your head off, so that makes it a really nasty circle to be in, because you really get irritated when you are so sleepy.
And early waking also, don't you think, Suzanne?
Yeah.
Because
I couldn't sleep until 5 o'clock in those days.
Always between 3 and 5.
Between 3 and 5 waking, and then finding it hard to fall back asleep, and then just before the alarm goes off, goes off.
And really the mood swings and getting really, really angry. I remember a couple of times when I was still married that I got just so angry. It was like I was pulled back like an how do you call it, an elastiek in Dutch, and just and I just attacked him for nothing. And I had never done that. I didn't know that for myself. So those were some difficult signs. And then the night sweats started, like I was some kind of lawn, where all the water sprays. Yeah. And I just thought, where is it coming from? Yeah.
But I think you're right. And I think that the early perimenopause does, like, it's not really the hot flashes or the night sweats that are very on the foreground. I think
No.
it's like I had itchy ears,
Burning
But
skin.
it is,
dry skin on my scalp, dry eyes. I had never had any allergies, and I thought I must be allergic because my eyes are so itchy all the time.
it has to do with testosterone.
Yeah, and also gum irritation, like
Yeah.
retracting gum.
Yeah.
And it's strange. I think this is one of the things that makes perimenopause so difficult, is because I know when I first started looking into it, I think there were 35 to 38 symptoms they were talking about. And now there are 45 plus that could be related to it. And I think it's partially because not enough women have been talking about it and talking about their experiences and why you women do, what you do in your wonderful work, but it treats everybody differently, and some people have no symptom and some people have full symptoms. So I think that's one of the things that why we need to talk about it more, so when women do experience whatever they're experiencing, they know they contribute it to something.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have estrogen receptors all over your body and brain. So, well, it depends. I think where you're vulnerable, where you notice it. Some women get a frozen shoulder. I never had that, but I did have the joint pain in my hands, and I thought I was going to get arthrosis or something.
Yeah.
And after,
But does
well,
it
within
stop?
2 weeks of hormone suppletion, it was gone.
What did you say, Anne?
Really? Does it stop? I mean, where does it stop, and where?
No, it stops when you take hormone suppletion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that symptom that I described, and that the itching scalp and
burning skin.
yeah, I within a week after starting the Zuli, I started out with the Zuli for 3 months. It was gone. Just with it, I didn't know that the itchy scalp had been related to hormones, but it disappeared within a week.
Yeah.
And I could like go running for an hour plus, whereas I had been stuck on like 30 minutes for months, and all of a sudden I could run.
And what is Zuli?
The Zuli is a contraceptive pill with estradiol, so real estrogen in it.
Okay.
But it has a progestin in it also, so it's not entirely bioidentical. But it's like I knew that my GP would not make a fuss about this one, so I just started on this one, and I thought, let me sort it out later. What else I want? But,
it's strange that when you're a GP yourself, you have to rely on your GP to get what you want.
Yeah, well, I can prescribe it myself, but then it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't. You shouldn't basically, and also you can't think clearly when it concerns yourself. So that's, I think, is a good thing.
And
also,
did you before you take the pill? Did you try all natural suppletion or other?
I was coming from 2 years of lactation, and I was so low that I didn't try anything else. I just went straight to this because I have tried things in the past and they just don't really agree with me. And then if you try the natural path, like you don't know to what component you respond or respond or you get side effects from. So it's very often difficult to pinpoint what is working and what is not working for you. And now with the knowledge I have now, I think it's the natural path that I do agree with is working on your lifestyle, running, lifting weights, eating well. And I had done all that, but it didn't work at all because it was just not the way I could fix myself. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that, when I did my kind of deep dive into perimenopause, I was almost really frustrated that they were telling me to eat well, to get enough exercise, to get enough sleep. And it's like, when have we never needed to do those things?
Yeah,
we've always needed to do those things to live well. And I think I did try some natural solutions or remedies. And as you say, you tend to try them on top of each other, so you don't know what's actually working. And for me, the big, and I thought, although I knew that hormones were safe to take, I thought that, why am I putting something into my body that is actually not there?
Well,
And then,
it always was.
but it always
Yeah, but always was, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, for me, the thing that really pushed me was the depression I was sinking into. And I was going further down into this depressive feeling inside that I felt I couldn't share with anybody else, that nobody else was talking about. And I think when I really started to hit rock bottom, it was at that point I went to the doctor with my long checklist of, okay, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I've experienced, this, and I want hormones now. And that really was just feeling that lift of my mood and starting to feel a little bit more like myself. That was, yeah, I remember that feeling, and it went from me thinking I was crazy, as your podcast title is, Suzanne. I really thought I was going crazy, and I was going to need to be committed, to then starting to feel like a human and slightly more in control of myself. So that's why I went from the sort of natural to the hormones.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of women experience before menopause. That's the period where your estrogen is really getting low, and you're starting to feel depressed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I recognize that. So around the age of 40, it was really spiking and going all the way around, and it was pure anxiety that I felt. And by the time I was 48, 49, I was really depressed and couldn't do anything anymore. I just had the energy, and also the zest for life was really, it was gone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how all of these things fit together. So when you think about it, anxiety is part of the feelings that we get. And then we're anxious because we're not sleeping. We're anxious because we're not feeling like ourselves. We're more anxious because we're tired. So you can see how this sort of all fits into this downward spiral. And what I've also found is that there are a lot of women who have had really great careers, whatever they've done, whether it's corporate or otherwise, and it's often corporate. And all of a sudden, around the menopausal, perimenopausal time, they experience burnout and they experience dissatisfaction. And the number of people I've said, you should probably get your hormones checked, because maybe it's your hormones changing that make you feel like this, rather than just saying it's burnout.
Yeah, but also thinking that they're incapable and turning down promotions and not doing projects that they would like, but they think they can't do it. Or in my case, I started to, like, instead of like thinking about the most three important diagnoses that something could be, I would think about all the diagnoses that there were possible for this one symptom, and I
Yeah.
couldn't pick one, because it's just like, why wouldn't it be this very seldom disease? Yeah, like it's, so you start to doubt yourself more often.
So you guys are collaborating. So I'm curious how the two of you met and what led to the collaboration and the spark behind writing the booklet that you've done, The Perimenopause Unraveled.
Yeah, well, we were in contact before that, because I think you asked me something about progesterone, and then I offered you some pills. And you were on vacation, and you came to get it just to try. And then
Yeah.
and then
Let's get out of the live recording that we share, okay? There's no under-the-counter drugs dealing where we are. This is just a friendly support of each other as women who give ourselves what
Yes,
we
I was on the Zuli, and then I asked, like, can you use progesterone with that? Because
yeah.
I was told to continue the Zuli like 2 months in a row or so, or 3 months, and I after 1.5 months was getting some symptoms that I thought, well, this is not, it's not just the estrogen that I have problems with. This is also the lack of progesterone. And then I started to Google and look it up on Facebook, and then I thought, well, maybe I can use progesterone together with the Zuli. And then I asked Suzanne about it, if she knew if anybody did that. And then she said, well, I have some. And then I said, okay, great. Where do you live? And then and then it turned out, like 2 days later, I would be driving past her house on way to my holiday. So, and then I went to this campsite, and I took the car and just drove.
But did it
so
work?
fast.
Because I learned that next
It
to
was
the
hell.
contraceptive pill, you can't take any
No,
progesterone.
it was hell. It was really,
Yeah,
really hell. I took it for one night, and then I was like awake the whole night,
yeah.
really feeling super anxious, suicidal thoughts even.
Can I
Well,
jump in and say
not
what's
really suicidal thoughts, but yeah, like thinking, if I'm gonna go crazy, this is insane. I'm a danger to myself. I should wake my husband and tell him that he has to watch me. So
And do you
I
still
never.
have that with the progesterone?
No, yeah, that's why I switched to vaginal progesterone,
Yeah,
because I tried it again later without the Zuli, and it was
yeah,
less
yeah,
intense,
yeah.
but I still couldn't sleep, so it still kept me
Yeah.
up. So there's this, I don't know, contradictive, or no, how do you say that?
Phyllis Bronson, who is kind of the progesterone queen,
Yeah,
she says you can't have the real progesterone next to the
yeah,
contraceptive pill because it just takes over everything.
yeah. And the nomegestrol inside the Zuli is like binding. Its binding capacity is insane. It's like it stays
Yeah,
on your receptor for like 40 to 50 hours. So
yeah, yeah.
Can I say what I think is fascinating about this
Mhm.
discussion that we're having? The first one is that obviously we're talking to a doctor with Dr. Lotta, and she didn't have all the information and went to Suzanne. And I think that's fascinating. You're saying that, you were looking at different Facebook groups and researching online. So I think that's the first thing. And the second one is also that often I think women go to the doctor and think that they get prescribed something and then they have to keep sticking with that. And actually, what I'm hearing more and more is about going back and tweaking it and
yeah.
working with your doctor or your consultant. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of women say hormones haven't really worked, but I don't think they necessarily go back to their doctor and keep pushing because of the way that they're sometimes turned away or misunderstood.
Yeah, but also because the GPs, if your GP is prescribing it to you, I think it's really great that they do that. But we as GPs don't have a lot of experience doing that.
Mhm.
So we follow the guidelines, and we don't know what to expect when we prescribe it. And we don't know when to tell people, you'll be fine, it will be okay, just stick with it. It will get better in like 2-3 weeks. Or when we should tell people, I think you're on a too high dose. Let's cut your dose a bit and see and go a bit slower. Very often when you have a side effect, or no, not side effect, when you have an effect that you don't want, and you call your GP and they're unexperienced with it, they tell you, then maybe you should stop.
Yeah, they
And
just
that's
aren't trained in it. You
yeah,
weren't either. No.
no.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of tweaking and a lot of reading, a lot of listening and trying to find out what kind of things work for which route, what the alternatives can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fascinating as well. And we sit there, and it's definitely one of the womanship things that I talk about, that there is no one right route for every woman. And it really is about, that's why I think giving the information and providing the knowledge so women feel armed with the information to make decisions and to push their healthcare professionals is really important. So what makes the Perimenopause Unraveled, the work that you've done together and is now available in English, what makes it different from other books that are out there on the subject?
Well, the shortness, I think it's really short, and it was supposed to be a very short handout because we both were interviewed by Jan magazine, which is for early perimenopause, and the journalist said to me, "Well, for our age, there really is nothing, and could you please write a very short handout?" And I promised that, and then I thought about asking Lotte to join, because then it was backed up by a GP and would be taken seriously, which it did. And a lot of GPs are sharing it now and reading it, which is marvelous.
Yeah, and of course the fact, Suzanne, that once we started, that we kept on adding, and it turned out into a 30-page
Yeah,
booklet.
yeah, yeah. It was supposed to be a 2-pager or something, but I think it's 23 pages now. Also, because of all the research we, the notes we added, I think 6 or 7 pages. But that's important because now, if you go to your GP, you can actually show it and say, "This is it."
And so, again, I think it just shows that there's so much about the perimenopause and menopause that women need to know that you couldn't do the 2 pages. But I also realize, what it was like when I was reading the books about it, and they're pretty thick research style books. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot of information to go through when you want to arm yourself quickly with the knowledge, as you say, to take to your GPs and to start to understand what's happening. So what sort of feedback are you getting from women who have had the Dutch version of the book, and what are they taking out as important?
Well, that now they understand what's happening and they know what to say to their doctors, and that it really helps bringing over the message that they have, because they know what they need themselves and what to ask in a gentle way. And that really helps with the conversation you're having with your GP.
And also, I think, Suzanne, what we've really, what makes it stand out if you compare it to other books, is what we've really tried is to cover the gap between Facebook groups and the consultation room, and provide evidence or nuance to all the things that are claimed in Facebook groups, while addressing the fact that there are things that maybe can be done that we don't really know yet.
Yeah.
So that I think is also nice for GPs to read, because they get all the women in their consultation room claiming that they need this and that because it's said on Facebook. But in the guide, it also says why you could consider it or why you could leave it.
Yeah, and that it's evidence-based, and we have the evidence.
Yeah.
Well, it's backed up.
Yeah.
I think that's so interesting when you have a look at so many issues that women experience. Hormones bind us together. So there's more that, bind me or you together with somebody, a woman the other side of the world, different race, different religion. But they also separate us because we experience things, or we can experience them so differently. And I guess that's where some of the conversations, and I've looked at, some of the Facebook groups or discussion groups, and they can very quickly turn to almost a negative discussion or argument when people have slightly different opinions, which I always find very strange when we are all seeking knowledge and there's no one right way. I'm just going to wrap up quickly, but I'm going to say just quickly, so we have this Connected Health event in September where we're going to be talking all things hormones and the other areas that women start worrying about and cause us anxiety as we sort of approach midlife. Why do you think it's a good thing for women to actually attend this event? What do you think that they'll gain?
Well, they are going to hear the top specialists that we have in the Netherlands, but also Louise Newson. So I think they can learn a lot about their body and their mind, hormones, and how they all connect together. Yeah.
And what do you think that the community does to that in terms of bringing women together to actually explore these subjects?
I think it really helps if you know that you're not alone, but it also is really person-based, because for me, I'm not that much of a group person. I thought I was. I'm not. So it's also very individual, but I really enjoy meeting other people who find this topic interesting and who are curious. And I hope to learn from other people who are coming as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, and Lotte and Suzanne for sharing your experience and your personal journeys as well. And for me, it's really important that people understand that, behind the professionals, there are personal journeys that make you so passionate and so experienced and so good to be sharing your knowledge. And for those people who are watching maybe the replay and would like to get hold of the Perimenopause Unraveled, we will put some links to show where you can actually purchase the guide from as well. And also hope to see you at our event in September, where both of these wonderful guests will be taking to the stage and sharing more knowledge with you. So thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for organizing, Nicolette. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.